world is a beautiful phenomenon of cause and effect. There is a reality that pervades and percolates every facet of the world, making it graceful, glorious. Objects and beings have been orchestrated to bring about the melody of life, a heaven upon earth. However, that is not to be. Desire and attachment, lust and greed has devastated the human race. The root cause for this pathetic state is the fall of the human intellect. Humanity has gone off the rails, and humanity alone can put itself back on the rails. You are the architect of your fortune. You are the architect of your misfortune. You make yourself, you mar yourself. The responsibility of redeeming the world, therefore, falls entirely on human beings.
There is now a unique online learning opportunity available for you to begin the journey of self-development. The one-of-its-kind e-learning course, conducted by world-renowned philosopher A. Parthasarathy, systematically guides the student from the basic precepts of life to the subtlest philosophy known to mankind. Pursuing the study, students gain clarity of thought, purity of emotion, and efficiency of action. To enroll for the course, visit elearning.vedanthaworld.org.
The indicators we have seen till now, up to the last week, is the frequency, the intensity, and the recovery time a person takes from fear, anger, greed, arrogance, envy, hatred, etc. We have covered up to this point in relation to the mind. Now we will start with in relation to the knowledge and understanding, in relation to the intellect, the knowledge and understanding. What is it that? What is it? Starts with the understanding of the essentials and the non-essentials. Knowledge is required to understand. Intellect is very much essential. Intellect is very much important to understand the essentials and the non-essentials of every aspect of life. Due to lack of intellect, the attention will be given to the non-essential. Where there is a powerful intellect, the focus will be on the essential. It means we should know how to distinguish between the essential and the non-essential. And the effective use of the intellect comes in when you are able to distinguish between the two. Everything in life can be divided into these two, essential and the non-essential. Now, the essential and non-essential cannot be according to whims and fancies of every individual. The essential and the non-essential has to be on some established principles. One way is essentials and non-essentials according to my own whims and fancies. Distinct and different from that is based on some established principles. Here we are talking about essentials and non-essentials based on some established principles of life. And that established principles of life is what is called Vedanta. So if you look at the chart, if you look at the board, you will see it. Essentials versus non-essentials. The essential aspect of education. What is the non-essential aspect of education? What is the essential aspect of denial versus self-control? What is the essential and non-essential in relation to wealth? What is the essential and non-essential in relation to marriage? What is the essential and non-essential when it comes to religion? So every aspect of life, I have not taken all the aspects of life. We are only doing I'm just giving you a basic, a few aspects. And that is not a comprehensive list. These are only a few examples. Once we do the proper course, once we do the proper suggested e-learning course to strengthen the intellect, there all this will be dealt in detail. Here we are only giving a basic introduction to what it is. So what is the essential aspect of education and what is the non-essential aspect of education? First of all, most don't recognize there are these two differences in the first place. Intellect is required even to understand this difference of essential and non-essential. What is the essential aspect of education and what is the non-essential aspect of education? The non-essential aspect of education is which university, which country. These are all the non-essential aspects of education. Because of lack of intellect, the human being emphasizes on the non-essentials, missing the essential. So the non-essential is which school, which university, which country. All these are non-essential aspects of education, meaning these are not the determining factors. Non-essential means it is there, but they don't determine it. And what is the essential aspect of education? The essential aspect of education is the capacity to do a thing when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. The essential aspect of education is the capacity, the ability in a human being to do a thing when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. This is the essential aspect of education. Rest are all non-essential aspect of education. And lot of emphasis is placed on the non-essentials and essentials are ignored completely. Therefore, we find, if you remember the first session and the second session, we made the difference between intelligence and intellect. If you remember the distinction where we spoke about intelligence and intellect, the non-essential aspect of education you focus, you become very intelligent. And intelligence helps you to earn a living. Intelligence helps you in acquiring a skill, and intelligence helps you in earning a living, and actual living is distinct and different from that. That is not taught anywhere. That you are left to find out for yourself. And by the time you find out what is the essential aspect and what is the non-essential aspect of education, you become a grandfather or great-grandfather. And learning it at that time is of no use. Why? Because to the next generation, I focus on the non-essential. That's why he says the amount of time and effort that people put to worry about the non-essential aspect of education, the time they put, the money that is spent. We are not saying don't do all that. Vedanta is not saying don't do all that. It only says that doesn't strengthen the intellect, because that doesn't teach you the distinction between the essential and the non-essential. The second aspect of essential and non-essential is wealth. What is the essential aspect of wealth and what is the non-essential aspect of wealth? Even in relation to wealth, you have these two, essential and non-essential. Can I repeat? Even in relation to wealth, you have these two as what is the essential aspect of wealth and what is the non-essential aspect of wealth. What is the essential aspect of wealth? The essential aspect of wealth is you can trade objects. With wealth, you can buy objects. And if anybody comes and says there is nothing in the wealth, that fellow doesn't know what he's talking, isn't it? And if somebody comes and says everything is dependent on the wealth, again, that person also doesn't know what he's talking. Because you cannot call it useless, neither can you call it useful. It means something in it is useful, for something it is useful, for something it is useless. That is essential and non-essential. Are you able to follow? For something it is useful, for something it is useless. What is it? What is wealth useful for? With wealth, you can buy the exercise machine and keep at home. Buying the exercise machine is not buying health. Correct? If you have wealth, you can buy the exercise machine and keep at home. But by buying the exercise machine itself, you don't become healthy unless you sit and work on that machine. So with wealth, what can you buy? With wealth, you can buy a machine, but you cannot buy health. Correct? If you have wealth, you can hire a person. If you have wealth, you can hire a person. But what you cannot hire with wealth, you cannot hire sincerity, dedication, loyalty and all cannot be hired. If you have wealth, you can hire a person. You can hire 5, 10, 15, 500, 5,000, 50,000. You can hire in numbers with wealth. But what you cannot hire? You cannot hire loyal. You cannot say, I'm paying you. No. Why don't you be loyal? Why don't you be dedicated? You cannot ask that question. Why? Because with wealth, you can hire a person. You cannot hire loyalty. Wealth cannot buy you loyalty. Wealth cannot buy you dedication. So you understand with wealth what you can buy, with wealth what you cannot buy. With wealth, you can buy books. With wealth, you can buy books. Buying books is not buying knowledge. With wealth, you can buy books, but you cannot buy knowledge. Therefore, the non-essential aspect of knowledge is book, the essential aspect of knowledge is your reflection, understanding. That wealth cannot buy. And you find again here human beings placing all emphasis on the non-essential aspect. What is the non-essential aspect? They believe that with wealth you can have health, with wealth you can have dedicated people around you, with wealth you can have a library but not knowledge, with wealth you cannot buy happiness. Happiness, take it or leave it, doesn't make any difference to the principle. Happiness doesn't come from what you have, happiness comes from what you are. Again I repeat, happiness doesn't come from what you have, happiness comes from what you are. Now what you are needs an intellect. With wealth you can have whatever you want in terms of objects. You can hire a person also. So with wealth you can hire. So the essential and non-essential when it comes to wealth. What is the essential aspect of wealth and what is the non-essential aspect of wealth? What is the essential aspect of wealth? The essential aspect of wealth is you can hire a person, but you cannot hire loyalty. With wealth, you can buy books, but you cannot become knowledgeable. So, with wealth, you cannot buy happiness. What is the difference? Happiness doesn't come from what you have. Happiness comes from who you are. Vedanta brings about this distinction and places the emphasis on who you are and what you are rather than what you have. Again, the misunderstanding due to lack of intellect people make is they focus on what they have and what they don't have, and if they have more than what they have now, they'll be happy. This having more and more is what people call as better life. What is better life? Wherever you are, if you have more than what you have, your life is better. If you have a motorcycle, buying a car, your life has become better. If you are in a 2-bedroom apartment, you move on to a 4-bedroom apartment, your life has become better. If you have X amount in your bank balance, and if the bank balance has increased, your life has become better. This is how people understand. Therefore, they focus on the non-essentials a lot. Vedanta comes and says, understand the distinction between the essential and the non-essential. Intellect knows how to distinguish between the essential and the non-essential, focuses on the essential and makes use of the non-essential wherever necessary. Are able to follow? It makes use of the non-essential wherever necessary, it will make use of. But the emphasis will not be on the non-essentials, the emphasis will be on the essentials. Another area where people don't understand the difference is marriage. Intellect is needed to understand the difference between what is the essential aspect of marriage and what is the non-essential aspect of marriage. The non-essential aspect of marriage is the muhurta. The non-essential aspect of the marriage is the wedding hall. The non-essential aspect of the marriage is the who are they called? They are not called caterers. Previously, they used to be called caterers. Now they are not called caterers because who is your event? Who is your event manager? Who is the event manager? Who is your, what is the wedding? What is the wedding hall? What is the wedding dress? These are the non-essential aspects of marriage. And what is the essential aspect of marriage? What is the essential aspect of marriage? The essential aspect of marriage is the ability to accommodate one person in your life. The ability to accommodate one person in your life. That's what marriage is all about. So much they focus on the non-essential and they miss on the essential. What is missing on the essential? They are not able to accommodate one person in their life and end up in divorces, isn't it? 25 years back, divorce was a very bad word. 50 years back, 25 years back, divorce is a very bad word. If divorce happens in the family, everybody will want to hush it. No, they will not want to talk about it. They will want to hush it, isn't it? Nowadays, if they don't divorce, it looks like wrong, isn't it? Oh, you are married to the same person for so long. At least 1 or 2 divorces should have happened. No, it has got nothing to do with the other person. Because focused on the non-essential so much, we missed the essential. Are you able to follow? So what is the essential aspect of marriage? How have you trained yourself to accommodate one person in your life? How have you trained yourself to accommodate one person in your life? That is the essential aspect of marriage. Non-essential aspect of marriage is the rest. And so much of emphasis is placed on the non-essentials, forgetting the essentials. And the tragedy of life is this. Everybody teaches and focuses on the non-essentials so much, those non-essentials have started to appear like essentials. And if Vedanta talks about essentials, they say, oh, these are all not practical, sir. These are all very nice to hear, very nice to give us a lecture to somebody else, but in real life, it is not practical. So another important area where you have to understand the difference between essential and non-essential is, intellect is required, is marriage. Similarly, essential and non-essentials in religion also. I told you I'm not giving you the comprehensive list. I'm only touching upon a few aspects. That's why after the course, after the 10-week session, if we join the 3-year course, there all this will be dealt in detail. Here I'm just giving you, it's like before you buy sweets, you ask for a sample, no? Isn't it? You go to a sweet shop and you ask for samples. Before you buy that sweet, that fellow give you a sample, no? Based on the sample, you decide, correct? And don't make that mistake in this, for I am one of the very poor samples of the courses. Don't think, don't take that. Yours, this is very bad. Still join the course because this is a very poor sample, very average poor sample. Essential and non-essential in religion. What is the essential aspect of religion and what is the non-essential aspect of religion? We need to know the distinction. And Vivekananda says, what is the non-essential aspect of religion? He says, the entire religion is confined to the kitchen, he says. The entire religion is confined to the kitchen. What to cook, what not to cook, and in which vessel to cook. That's all. He says the entire religion is confined to what to cook, what not to cook. Very orthodox means in which vessel to cook, that's all. That is the non-essential aspect of religion. What is the essential aspect of religion? The essential aspect of religion is what he gives as 35 qualities in chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita. What is the essential aspect of religion? He gives 35 qualities. Adveshta, Sarvabhutana, Maitra, Karuna, Evacha. He starts like that. I'm not going into those details. Those are the essential aspect of religion. What is the non-essential aspect of religion? The non-essential aspect of religion is the ritual, the deity, all the associated principles. We are not saying don't have it. It is essential as long as you know where to place it. Just as which university to go, when we discuss about education, which university to go is very important. As long as you know the most important than that. Similarly, all these rituals, all the paraphernalia associated with religion is not the true religion. That is not the essential part of religion. What is the essential part of religion? The essential part of religion is discipline. The essential part of religion is discipline and no hatred. That's what religion is all about. And lot of hatred and highly indisciplined, but visiting all the temples. And nowadays they started calling it as spiritual tourism. No, religious tourism. And there is a package tour. In 2 days, you can visit 27 temples. By the time you come to the 5th temple, you really don't know which god or goddess you are seeing. And by the time you finish the 27th temple, somebody asks you, say, I visited 27 temples. You can only count the numbers. But religiosity doesn't come out of it. That doesn't mean Vedanta is not saying don't go to temples, don't do all that. Don't misunderstand that non-essential as essential. That's what the teaching says. Don't misunderstand the non-essential as essential. So, what is the practical use of intellect? The practical use of intellect that makes life better is in distinguishing and teaching you the essential aspect and the non-essential aspect in everything. In every facet of life, you need to know this difference. What is essential and what is non-essential. And when you are focusing on the essentials, the quality of life is better. The quality of life is better when you are focusing on the essential. When you are focusing on the non-essential, the quality of life is very poor. And then they come and ask, what to do, sir, what to do. Vedanta says, develop your intellect. And you can't develop your intellect not by doing anything. You have to go through a systematic course, a systematic methodic course to study. It's not just the course material. It is the reflection that you do along with the material. Both strengthens the intellect, and the essential aspect and the non-essential aspect of intellect is what? It teaches you what is the essential aspect of education, what is the non-essential aspect of education. It teaches you what is the essential aspect of wealth, what is the non-essential aspect of wealth. It teaches you what is the essential aspect of marriage and what is the non-essential aspect of marriage. It teaches you what is the essential aspect of religion and what is the non-essential aspect of religion. It teaches you both. It means you start having a strong intellect and life becomes better. Life becomes better when the shift happens between the essential and the non-essential. Having said all this, we read something a bit technical also now about the intellect, where we are going to talk about the stages of intellect and grades of intellect. The stages of intellect and the grades of intellect. Stages means there are four stages by which the intellect develops. Grades means the quality of the intellect. The stages by which the intellect develops. Grade means the quality of the intellect. If you see the board, there are these. The stages of intellect. The stages of intellect is of four. Age of perception, age of superstition, age of scientific inquiry, and age of contemplation. The human intellect grows through these four stages. The first stage is called the age of gazing, age of perception. The second stage of intellect is called the age of superstition. The third stage of intellect is called the age of scientific inquiry. The fourth stage of intellect is called the age of contemplation. What is this age of perception, superstition, scientific inquiry, contemplation means? At the first stage, what is called as the age of, we'll see the four stages and then we'll see the quality of intellect, the grades of intellect as sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. We'll come to that later. First, we will understand the four stages of intellect, how the intellect grows in four stages. The first stage is called the age of gazing. Age of gazing, age of perception means you see things around and don't react to anything. Don't react to anything, and whatever you see is taken for granted. That is the age of perception. Whatever you see, you take that as the right thing. That is called the age of gazing, perception. Next comes the age of superstition. What is the age of superstition? Age of superstition is you see things, you correlate cause and effect wrongly. That is called superstition. In the age of gazing, there is no thinking, no nothing. And what is superstition? From that, it evolves to the next stage. What is the next stage? The age of superstition. And what is superstition means? You see an effect and you correlate it with the wrong cause. You see an effect and you correlate it with the wrong cause. When you see an effect and when you correlate it with the wrong cause, it is called the age of superstition. What is the age of scientific inquiry? The age of scientific inquiry is where you try to correlate cause and effect rightly. The third stage of intellect, where you try to correlate cause and effect rightly, properly, is called the age of scientific inquiry. The last one is called the age of contemplation. The last one is called the age of contemplation. And what is contemplation means? You see a beautiful, extraordinary system of cause and effect functioning all the time, and you are in wonderment looking at that. That is called the age of contemplation. These are the definitions. And for each and everything, we'll give one example. It becomes easy to follow. It becomes easy. If you give one example, it becomes easy to follow. First one, what does the age of perception, gazing means? You see the sun coming up in one direction going up, 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 and moving down to the other direction. So it is very clear. What is very clear? In this observation, in this perception, in this gazing, what is very clear? It is the sun that is moving and not the earth. It's very clear, correct? Most of the people take it for granted that it is the sun that is moving and not the earth. One person questioned it. That is moving out of the age of perception. Able to follow? One person questioned it. Questioning what? Questioning whatever is obvious is not obvious. Whatever appears to be obvious is not obvious. And most of the human beings you find stuck at the first two stages. Either they are stuck at the level of perception or they are stuck at the level of superstition. So one person asked the question. What is the question? Maybe it is not the sun that is moving. Maybe it is the earth that is moving. One person asked that question. And everybody would have told him what? Everybody, what that society would have told him? You are gone mad, because it is so obvious that it is the sun moving. You are not moving. You are in the same position. Everything around you is also in the same position. Why are you even, how can you even question that you are moving and not the sun? This stage is called the age of perception. This stage is called the age of perception, where whatever you perceive is taken for granted as real. No need for inquiry. No need for inquiry at all. Intellect says, Vedanta comes and says, this is the very, very poorest. In fact, this is no intellect at all. In the Western sciences, Copernicus is the first person to say, it is the earth that revolves around the sun, and it is not the sun that is revolving around the earth. He is the first person to say that. He proved it. Whatever method he proved it. And you know what happened to him? Does anybody know what happened to him? For this discovery, he was tied to the post in the middle of the town and burnt alive. He was tied to the post in the middle of the town and he was burnt alive for this discovery, because it is so obvious that it is the sun that is moving and not the earth. 25 years later, Galileo came and said the same thing. 25 years later, after Copernicus, Galileo published the paper, the same thing. Again, the same set of people called Galileo and said, we heard that you have published some papers in the science magazine. What is it? Galileo said, we are all making a mistake. It is not the sun that is revolving the earth. It is the earth that is revolving the sun. And the same set of people showed him the post. You see the post here in the middle of the town? He said, yes. You know what happened? Somebody told this 25 years back. You know what happened? Galileo said, I don't know. What happened? He was tied to the post and burnt alive. And now they asked Galileo. This is history, yeah? Sometimes I give my own story, sometimes I give historical facts also. Yeah. Sometimes it will be a fiction, both. Yeah. Little bit of history, little bit of both. Sometimes it will be a mixture of both also. The same set of people asked Galileo, what are you saying now? After showing him the post, they asked Galileo, what are you saying now? And you know what Galileo said? Galileo said, what do you want me to say? Yeah, he's a wise person. He didn't have suicidal tendencies. He didn't want to be burnt alive by that mad group. So he said, what do you want me to say? They said, accept that you are wrong. Accept that you are wrong. And Galileo said, yes, I accept that I am wrong. No, you have to give it in writing. And he said, yes, I will give it in writing. And he gave it in writing. That's called Galileo's letter of apology. That's called Galileo's letter of apology. He wrote a letter saying that I made a mistake, blah, 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 whatever it is. And then he said, will you allow me to write a footnote? He asked. Will you allow me to write a footnote in that letter? Or will you allow me to write a footnote? Footnote, you understand, no? It will be in such a fine print that you can never know what that footnote is. That's called a footnote, isn't it? The whole page advertisement, 70% off. And then there will be a footnote. What? T and C apply. With asterisk, T and C apply. With the magnifying glass also, you can't see that T and C apply. Similarly, Galileo said, will you allow me to write a footnote? And Galileo wrote a footnote. You cannot corner a wise man. You cannot corner a madman. Huh? You can never corner a wise person. You can never corner a mad person also, because they both know how to escape. We will get caught. They know. You cannot corner them. And Galileo, being wise, he wrote a footnote. And beautiful is that footnote. I'm quoting that footnote now. Footnote he wrote. The sun and the earth doesn't listen to you and me. You understand the footnote? He said, the sun and the earth doesn't listen to you and me. You can say what you want. I can say what I want. Independent of what you say and what I say, independent of what you say, I agree. Independent of what I say, I disagree. There is a law that is functioning. There is a law that is functioning. And intellect is to recognize that law. And the intellect recognizes that law. At the age of perception, we miss the law. So he wrote that footnote. What is that footnote? The sun and the earth doesn't listen to you and me. All the letter of apology became, all the apology became redundant in that one statement, no? At the age of perception, what is age of perception? Remember Galileo's footnotes. I'll give one example for one stage, you'll understand it. So for age of perception, what is the footnote? Remember Galileo's footnotes. Now you know what is gazing and how detrimental it is for humanity, for an individual to be stuck at the level of gazing. The same thing is what in all languages they say. Don't go by what you see. Don't go by what you hear. Don't go by what you see. Don't go by what you hear, because intellect is not functioning at all there. That is called the age of gazing. From the age of perception, the intellect matures, evolves to the next stage. The next stage of superstition. What is superstition? In the age of superstition, you start correlating things. But correlation is made wrongly. That is called superstition. You see an effect, and when you correlate it with the wrong cause, it is called the age of superstition. It is called the age of superstition. A person went to do a business. Business didn't succeed. He came back and started thinking what went wrong. And he concluded, a black cat crossed, therefore my mission didn't succeed. From this, he came to the conclusion. What is the conclusion? Whenever the cat crosses, don't go. Go inside the house and go 5 minutes later. A Roman king thought, how superstitions destroyed societies. A Roman king thought only if cats are there, this is the problem. No, what he did, he destroyed all the cats. And you know what happened after that? He has to import a cat from China. Why he has to import a cat from China? Rats became so much. Rat menace. Didn't know how to handle the rat. He has to import. Literally, it's true. Literally, it is true. I'm not. Okay, maybe I may exaggerate a little bit here and there, but the fact is that. Superstition. And every individual has their own superstitions. Every society has their own superstitions. Every culture has their own superstitions. And lack of intellect is superstition. Children have when they go for exams, they have this, lucky pen, lucky dress, correct? Have you ever had a lucky pen? Have you ever had a lucky dress? And the lucky pen, they go, I don't have a pen. Imagine this is a pen. And they go, lucky pen. They go, lucky dress. Lucky dress was there. Now that is, the pen and the question paper has no correlation, correct? The dress and the question paper has no correlation, but the mind makes a correlation. The wrong correlation of cause and defect is called superstition. From the age of gazing, intellect evolves to the level of superstition and it gets stuck at the level of superstition. So when Vedanta talks about these practices, it is not talking about these practices, it is talking about correlating cause and effect wrongly, and it is warning us against that. The second stage of intellect, what is called as the age of superstition. Weird superstitions. All superstitions are weird only. There is no logical superstition. What all superstitions people have. Literally, it happened. In one of the places where I had to go, I was staying with them for 2 weeks. For some work I went, I have to stay with the family for 2 weeks, and the family is known to me very well. North Indian family, a proper North Indian family. And for breakfast, idli was made. And a North Indian making idli is like my grandmother making chapati. Only she will call it as chapati. It's not no way connected to chapati. It is like my grandmother making it. That idli has to be soaked in boiled water first, and then in sambar, then only, because it's like a brick. That idli is like a brick. It is. Somehow I managed. The first day I managed it. I thought maybe South Indian fellow has come. They made idli for me. I ate. Second day, again idli. Third day, again idli, and I couldn't manage the third day. 2 days I managed, third day I couldn't manage. I went and asked that lady, why are you, see, can't you see you are tortured by eating it? Can't you see I am tortured by eating it? Why not make something that all of us can eat? Why are you making this idli? The reasoning they gave is something that is unbelievable. Huh? That's what I'm giving that example now. Reasoning. Oh no, sir, the daughter. The daughter is going for the exams. So idlis, whenever the daughter goes for exams, idlis will be made. And daughter is not going for second standard examination, third standard examination. Huh? The daughter is going for the final year MD exams. And they are making idlis. I thought, because nowadays the science behind food is very confusing, isn't it? If you have idli, it is soft. If you have dosa, it is this. If you have this, it will happen that. So much they complicate about the food so much. You feel like not eating. You feel like not eating anything. Better to starve and die faster than talk so much about. So I thought maybe somewhere they found out that if you have idlis and go, your stomach will be very light. You can concentrate on the exams better. So I thought something like that and said, what is the connection between idli and exams? I wanting to know the reason. Oh, no, sir, we can't tell you the real reason. And if they tell you we can't tell you the real reason, then only you feel like wanting to know it, no? If they say, I can't tell you, Nakada, you feel like, I can't tell you, sir. I really wanted to know. So I promised to so many things, and then I promised finally on the Bhagavad Gita also, I will not tell anybody, and I'm telling you all now, isn't it? Yeah, I said, tell me. 2 years back, one day, the girl had idli and went for exams. Examination was very easy. Question paper was very easy. From that day onwards, the rule in the house is what? Whenever she goes for exams, idlis has to be made. And all three are not illiterates in that family. Yeah? That's why I told you that girl is writing her final year MD exam and she is saying idli for breakfast. This is called, what do you call this? Anybody? What do you call this? This is called superstition. This is called superstition. You can call it insanity also. Huh? That's your freedom. But we call it as superstition. What is superstition? Correlating cause and effect wrongly. From this, the intellect matures to the third stage of growth. What is the third stage of growth the intellect matures into? It matures into what is known as the scientific inquiry. All human evolution happened because of the scientific inquiry. All betterment of life in terms of material wealth, in terms of external betterment happened because of scientific inquiry. What was the comforts 100 years back versus 50 years back? What was the comfort 50 years back versus now? 50 years back, when you see of somebody at the railway station, I wasn't born then, so I don't know. I only heard this as stories. When you see of somebody at the railway station, what is the last message you will give? As soon as you reached safely, write a letter that you have reached safely. Correct? That's the last message you give. For the person to go there, it will take 3 days. And then by the time the person realizes that you have to write a letter, it will take 7 days. And 8th day, the letter will be posted. And for the letter to reach you will take another Another 5 days. By the time you get to know whether the person has reached safely or not, 2 weeks. Correct? Nowadays, it is not like that, isn't it? People can track you, isn't it? You need not even report. They can track you. Wherever you are, everything can be tracked. Meaning, the scientific inquiry has brought about a external betterment. The facilities, the amenities, the facilities all have improved beyond comprehension. That is the benefit of the age of scientific inquiry. What is the fourth stage in Vedanta? We are interested in evolving to the fourth stage. In Vedanta, we are interested in evolving to the fourth stage. What is the fourth stage? The age of contemplation. Age of contemplation is from the external betterment, the focus shifts to the inner self. From the age of scientific inquiry that makes the world better, etc. From there, the shift happens to the internal inquiry. What is the internal inquiry? World has become better and better and better, but in the better world, why am I still agitated? You know, the kings who ruled the world 200 years back, if they were to come alive, they will be very jealous of the very ordinary person today. Do you know that? He'll be very jealous of the ordinary person today. Why he'll be very jealous? Because even the ordinary person has a better facility than the king who lived 200 years back. Even though he was the king, he still has to ride on a horseback only, breaking his back. And if you have to communicate a message, he has to depend on how to communicate. Messenger, pigeons. You know, again, I'm giving you an historical fact. Aurangzeb, the Mughal king, was in Delhi. The wife was pregnant and she was about to give birth. Now he wanted to know immediately. As soon as the child is born, he wanted to know. How he can know in those days? No way he could have known. Therefore, what he did, they found a method. What is the method? Every 200 meters, there was a drummer. Every 200 meters, there was a drummer. So as soon as the child is born there, the fellow will start drumming. The second fellow, third fellow, fourth fellow. So in a matter of 4 hours, it will reach Aurangzeb. Fatal communication error. You know the fatal communication error? He asked boy or girl. Didn't know. Because boy means 2 drum, girls means 4 drumming, something like that. No. Even the king had to live life like that. And when that king who ruled the world were to come alive today and look at us, he will be very jealous of us. He will tell us what? What he will tell us? My God, what a comfort you guys are living with. What a facility, what a comfort. You guys don't know what starvation is, because everything is in abundance. You go to the rice store, there are 250 varieties of rice. You don't know which rice to pick. You go to the coffee shop, they show you 350 varieties of coffee and you don't know what coffee to drink. Even the kings didn't have so much of comfort in those days. What a comfort life has become. What happens in that comfort? In that comfort, the individual is still sitting with the same worry and anxiety. So the king will tell us, you are all lucky to have been born now. He will tell us. What we will tell the king? Is better. is better. Age of scientific inquiry makes the external life better. But by making the external life better, your internal health remains the same. Your internal health doesn't improve because of the external world being made better. Because of the external world being made better, your internal health doesn't change. Age of contemplation is focusing, shifting the focus to the inner. When you shift the focus to the inner self, the intellect reaches the fourth stage. In Vedanta, when we talk about development of intellect, we talk from moving from perception to superstition, from superstition to scientific inquiry, from scientific inquiry to age of contemplation. Vedanta says you can straight away get into this age of contemplation so that whatever your external environment or situation is, you will remain unaffected. One thing is to have the best food, 35 varieties laid out on the table, and you are not at all hungry. You have a stomach upset. You have a stomach upset, you are nauseating, and 35 items on the table. Food will not taste. Another is get hungry. Whatever is on the table appears tasty, no? So, how to make food tasty? How to make food tasty? Vijay Rangan. How to make Sudha's food tasty? Simply get hungry. That's all. Simply get hungry. That's called age of contemplation. The internal transformation, the intellect that brings about the internal transformation makes everything so beautiful, so divine, so better. That's why we talk about developing and strengthening the intellect. And this intellect grows in 4 stages. Stage 1, perception. Example, Galileo's footnotes. Age of superstition. Example, adhukku an example sonna. What is the example I gave for that? Idli. Write it. Yeah. Remember Idli, you'll understand superstition. What is age of scientific inquiry? Aurangzeb drumming. Third example. Age of contemplation. What is age of contemplation? When your inner self is better, whatsoever you face, whatsoever situation you are in, you remain unaffected. That age of contemplation and the benefit of it is what Vivekananda puts it by saying, you conquer the mind, you conquer the world. You conquer the mind, you conquer the world. That's why the program is titled Inner Wellness, because the age of contemplation. So the intellect grows in these 4 stages. And then there is the quality of intellect, which we will take it up in the next session. So today we spoke about only 2 important facets of intellect. Where is your focus? On the essential or on the non-essential? That is the first diagnostic tool. Are you focused on the essential or are you focused on the non-essential? The second is, what is the current stage of intellect? Is it perception? Is it superstition? Is it at the age of scientific inquiry, or is it at the age of contemplation? And then the last one, which is known as the quality of the intellect. The grade of the intellect means quality of the intellect. The quality of the intellect as in Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic. We will take it up in the next session. And then we will move on to what is the 3-year course and how the 3-year course will help in strengthening the intellect. With this, we will be concluding our 10 sessions. I conclude for today. If there are any clarifications, we'll take it up. If not, we will conclude for today. Yeah.
In the sir, Hari Om sir. In
Yeah.
the example you mentioned in the marriage,
Oh, yeah.
you are I mean, in the sense some X is an intellect, and the
Yes.
neighbors, relatives are like
Yes.
nowadays all the pre-wedding shooting, marriages.
Yes.
How does the intellect handles the other side
Yeah.
when they demand it?
Yes. Now, a powerful intellect will know where to yield and where not to yield. You have powerful intellect. You have an intellect. For example, you are saying you have understood the essential aspect of marriage, and everybody around you is only focused on the non-essential aspect of marriage. How do I handle that? How does the intellect handle that? Is the question.
Marriage is the example, but in
Exactly. Yes,
an
correct.
all
Yes, correct.
day-to-day life.
Now, a powerful intellect will know to what extent non-essentials has to be attended to. It will not take it as essential. It will not place the emphasis on the non-essential. It will understand to what extent you can focus on the non-essential. It will tell you exactly to this extent you can focus. It's not saying you should entirely neglect the non-essential. You must pay some attention to it also, but not at the cost of sacrificing the essential.
Okay.
So you make your so depending on the strength of the intellect, that person would be able to make the right decision as in, okay, to this extent I will focus on the non-essential, to that extent I will not focus on the non-essential. When I got married, I married, no? No, I married and I have a daughter, 19-year-old she is. Do I look that old?
You said once, sir.
I said once, then it is. Okay. Now, when I was getting married, my father-in-law said that he will buy me a 3-piece suit. I said, in my lifetime, I am not going to wear the 3-piece suit. Why will I? I don't need it, for I am not going to use it. When the need comes, I will tell you, you buy me. No. For the photo shoot, you have to wear a 3-piece suit. I said, we can just hire it. I said, what is the problem? Why put so much? We will just hire it, and our Photoshop fellow will. Yeah. I stand with a normal T-shirt, take a photograph, and the Photoshop fellow will put a suit around me. No. Correct?
Yes.
This is how this is how you can handle the essential and the non-essential. This is how you will know how you can handle the essential and how you can handle the non-essential. It's not to say no to the non-essential. You know where to draw the line. And where do you draw the line? That is entirely dependent on the strength of the individual. It is entirely dependent on the strength of that particular individual. It is dependent upon. That's why we are talking about developing and strengthening the intellect through the courses.
Sometimes it happens that we are isolated, sir.
Yes, that happens. Yes, that will happen. That will happen. And the intellect rightly understands it, and it doesn't get affected by it.
Okay.
The intellect understands it and it doesn't get affected by it, because when you are standing for a value, when you are standing for a principle, there will be a sense of isolation. That is part of the package. That's part of the package, and the intellect understands it, and it will not have any problem about it. Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
It's part
Thank
of
you,
the
sir.
package. You will be isolated, and you cannot change the other. You cannot convince the other. You cannot change the other. You cannot give a discourse to the other. But you will remain unaffected. Yeah. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Anything else? And that's all, no? Venkat. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah. With this we conclude for today, and we continue with the quality of intellect in the next session.